Okay, guys, I'm here. My name is Heitor. I'm here attending a class, a Certified LeSS Practitioner class here in Manhattan, New York, with Bas Vode, and I found here in the class a certified enterprise coach called Gene Gendel, based out of New York, and it was great meeting him. And we conducted a very informal conversation, and I want to bring to you guys, Agile coaches, for you certified Agile coaches back in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and for you Agile coaches across the planet, a little bit more of explanation about this role that is so misunderstood in the market. So I hope you guys enjoy, and if you do, stay tuned in the channel. Gene, it's great to have you here. Thank you for doing this interview, which is pretty much more of an informal conversation, right?
Thanks for having me, Heitor. It's great to share the same classroom with you. This is my first time with Bas Vode in large-scale Scrum training. I've attended a few with Craig Larman. This seems to be a great complementary learning experience for myself. Just a couple of words about my personal career journey. I think that was your question. So I started in this business, if you will. My paid career is about 20 years or so. My paid career that's associated with the term Agile, whether it was used rightfully or wrongfully, is about 14 or so. I worked the hard way, what it feels like to work at organizations that are not Agile or as many of us say, not adaptive. And I actually worked myself from the trenches. I learned a lot on my own by reading, attending various events, seminars, webinars, panel discussions, and my personal career growth and career progression as a coach, as an organizational design consultant, has been a journey, and it took me more than a decade to get to where I am today. And I'm also proudly one of the certified enterprise coaches by Scrum Alliance, which is a highly valued accreditation out there, although probably not as well known as it should be. So thank you. What's the next question?
So how's the market for Agile coaches here in New York? You're a very experienced guy as a certified enterprise coach. You've been living here for more than 30 years. And could you please share a little bit about the market, how it looks like? Are there many job opportunities for Agile coaches here in New York?
So New York City is the conglomerate center. It's the heart of financial world. And New York City has many companies. Fintech, financial technology firms are here, insurance companies. Just in general, it's a very big market. Now, when it comes to Agile roles or Agile professions, I must say that I have been keeping my eye very close on the market for the last X number of years, and I can tell you that there are certainly jobs out there, there are requisitions out there. Companies are looking for people that can help them in their Agile adaptive journey. One of the trends that I have been observing for the last couple of years in the market space, and I do keep my fingers close on the pulse of the local market at least, is that there was some misunderstanding out there about the coaching profession. And it's a vicious cycle, to be frank. It's almost like a positive feedback loop. For the most part, I think organizations do not understand the essence of a coaching role, and this is manifested by them having requirements and job requisitions out there that very inadequately describe what a coach is and what a coach should do. What happens next? Middlemen, consultant firms, staffing firms pick up this not so well written Agile job requisition that really is Agile in name only, because it's oftentimes just a way to refurbish the existing role, and they put it out there and they collect candidates that really don't have the don't have experience, they don't have what it actually takes to be a coach, they don't have any industry knowledge, and they don't have a coaching stance. And these people are placed within companies that look for coaches. And then what happens next, they bring the coaching bar even lower. And now based on this lowered bar, more requisitions go out there, and more not so well-versed coaches are being brought on site into companies. And this is just a vicious cycle. So effectively, a coaching role, its essence deteriorates and gets lower, and obviously the short end of the stick is received by companies, client companies that procure coaches. And of course, when you look at your coaches just as a requisition to fill, as a resource, that's what effectively happens. What companies really should be doing is to be looking for individuals that can come in and challenge and revolutionize what happens at companies today, because this is the essence of an agile coach, of an organizational coach, whether he or she is engaged at enterprise level or team level. This is not a role of a conformist. This is a role of a reformist.
I love the metaphor you just used, conformist versus reformist. This is what I really desire agile coaches to be. They should be reformists and do things for passion. That brings me to another question. What are the main challenges you have encountered so far, the main pitfalls you have encountered so far, working as an agile coach here in New York?
Well, as mentioned before, some of the challenges that I see out there, specifically with the role of a coach, is that it's not often treated as a meaningful role that helps organizations to change. It oftentimes is accompanied by a stance of complacency and a lack of interest in changing by organizations themselves. And what happens then, the role of a coach gets reduced, gets trivialized, and becomes something that almost no value add to the organization. Oftentimes, we see coaches being augmented by organizations and becoming organizations themselves. And once this happens, then it is kind of difficult for a coach to take a neutral stance and to see an organization from outside so that he or she can help an organization to get to a better place. What I have seen as dysfunctions or pitfalls are probably not specific to New York City. They're probably seen anywhere else geographically, whether it's the United States or anywhere else in the world. Could be North America, could be South America, could be Chile, could be Brazil, could be Argentina. Do have some colleagues actually that are from Brazil and from Argentina. The biggest pitfalls is when you see coaches being augmented within organizations and being expected to conform to the existing organizational structure and dynamics without liberty and safety to change those dynamics. And it's less of an issue for coaches that come as professional third parties, external coaches, I would call them, for the lack of a better term, as much as this is an issue for people that are internally augmented and are internal individuals. One of the challenges that I have seen also with a coaching profession or coaching role organizationally is when the entire agile coaching practice is being embedded, is being introduced in the organizational construct that historically, fundamentally, is not supportive of the agile transformation, agile changes. And I'm not going to digress into specifying which organizational structures are less supportive of an agile coaching role or agile coaching effort, but I'm sure you can figure some of those out. They probably vary from company to company, from country to country, but I think it's very important to place a coaching practice within a domain that is supportive. And it's actually interesting, you and I are meeting here at LeSS event, at LeSS Training. It would be probably a good parallel to draw. In large-scale Scrum adoptions, we want coaches to be deeply embedded with teams, although those could be very well-versed organizational coaches by virtue of working throughout the entire stack of organizational structure, because unless we treat less formation almost as an organizational construct, they work closely with teams, and they embedded with teams and individuals that support teams, with leadership that is supportive of teams. And it's important for coaches to be decentralized away from some archaic conventional organizational constructs and closer to where action is, specifically to where business and technology comes together.
That resonates a lot with my experience, and one of the problems that I have encountered so far is that Agile coaches, they don't really know what Agile means. What type of tools, conceptual tools, or an Agile coach should have? What do you think?
Well, first, I'm going to piggyback off what you just said. So the root cause of why this is happening, by the way, just because your previous questions, the market is, there was still a lot of demand for people that have the term Agile in their job title, in their resumes. And by virtue of having this trend, many people consider an Agile coach is just another label, another name tag that they could use to substitute what they had yesterday. So effectively, it's almost like it's a process of refurbishing old roles into new roles with a new name tag, and nothing really changes. And we see lots of examples like these with organizations where you just add the word Agile to the existing process or to the existing role, and off you go. Now you consider this as a de facto, which is not true. One of the key assets of an Agile coach, and this goes as far as this is the core, the foundational, that's the pivot of a good coach, is coaching mindset. So a good litmus test for a coach would be to see them interact, engage with a coachee, whether it's an individual or a team or a leadership circle. Typically, coaches speak less and listen more. They reflect, and they give less of directive instructions. There's what's also referred as directive telling. Coaching stance is different from a consulting stance in a sense that a consultant can engage with you as a company, as a customer, and probably do a great job. But that would be his or her way to solve a problem. It would be his or her solution to the problem. It wouldn't be yours. A good coach will use various tools and techniques, facilitation techniques, enablement techniques, reflection techniques, to get you derive your own decisions and conclusions, and therefore make them more perpetual. A good coach will make you own your own decisions as opposed to renting their own. And this is, I'm actually plagiarizing from renting versus owning, something that we use heavily in large-scale Scrum as well, because we want our customers, we want our teams to own the decisions as opposed to rent ours. Of course, a good coach is also not just someone who serves a client only for pay. A good coach is someone who is deeply embedded in the Agile community and does a lot of philanthropy and pro bono work and stuff that really does not necessarily have to come back as a personal revenue. Coaches, especially Scrum Alliance, stresses this very strongly. Certified enterprise coaches and certified team coaches are expected to go through a long journey of self-development, and part of the self-development is intimate and deep industry and community engagement, and it comes in various forms. We have to give back to our community because we learn from our community. It is this philanthropy and this pro bono work, if you will, that helps us grow in a very independent and in a very, very unique way.
Now, what comes to mind now is Agile coaches doing their job because you get paid more, right? I believe they should do this for passion. What do you think?
Actually, I could not agree with you more. Any mature, seasoned coach would be proud to be called a Scrum Master, because what we do is Scrum Mastering. We could Scrum Master individuals, we can Scrum Master teams, and we can Scrum Master organizations. And of course, there is an element of misunderstanding. There's actually a pretty strong factor of misunderstanding that comes into play when a pay grid is the main driving factor for individuals to decide what they want to do with their career. As mentioned before, a good coach would give back to his community as much as they would give to their paid work. And by doing so, we could argue that they do a lot of work for free. So if you factor this in, then if someone argues back and says, well, coaches get paid highly and higher than others, then you may say, well, the way they give back is probably like no one else does. And I could not agree more with you that if a pay is the only thing that drives a coach to mature in their career, it's just a bad reason. And it is very, very clear, very obvious when someone who is in the role of a coach and he is in pursuit of high pay only. Oftentimes these people stand out because instead of being enablers and facilitators, they turn into I know better than anyone else consultants. And of course they want to be almost indispensable. And this is just it's the behavior that you can see. And I would also argue that I've seen some very experienced, very seasoned, very reliable Scrum Masters that still want to remain in the role of a Scrum Master. And these people, I would bet my own money on them more so than on some of the, unfortunately, folks out there that call themselves coaches, but they really don't have what it takes to be a coach. They're coaches in name only because they felt that, hey, this is the best career progression for me at the moment, and they treat Agile coaching profession almost like as a jump on, jump off bandwagon, because at the moment there is a market trend out there and everyone wants to become a coach. And of course, this is just, as I mentioned before, it's a vicious cycle. Companies bet on individuals like these. They bring them in-house and they bring down everything, the coaching level, as well as these people can really change organizations for good.
Now, speaking of market trends, I just created back in Brazil a training program called Certified Agile Coach. Now, if somebody is trained to be a certified Agile coach, to be educated as an Agile coach, what do you expect from this person?
Someone who comes to me and starts a conversation by stating that he is certified, someone would probably get the same treatment from me as I would expect to be treated by someone if I were to drop the fact that I'm certified enterprise coach. Sure, certifications come and they vary in credibility depending on what organization endorses them, but certification is like a bonus. What I would really look for in that person is being a coach. So it really comes down to his or her mindset, his or her ability to articulate, his or her ability to reflect on what I say. It really will come through interaction. Okay, so I would probably derive my own conclusions about validity and reputability of an accreditation based on who presented it and what they have said and how they came off. And I wouldn't expect any different treatment of my own modest persona.
Now, the guys listening to us out there, they really want to hear from you as an experienced certified enterprise coach by the Scrum Alliance. If you could give them a tip, what would it be so that they can start their career as Agile coaches?
Someone who wants to pursue a career as a coach, what they would like to start is with a deep understanding of what a coaching role is. They need to do enough research to understand what this role will bring them to. They want to go after credible source of information. For example, Scrum Alliance has a very a deep body of knowledge of what an Agile coach is, an enterprise as well as team level coaching profession is. People can just go on Scrum Alliance website and download checklists and applications that actually will give them a very good understanding, very good idea what we would expect from an individual to have. Quantitative and qualitative skills and assets we would like to see in individuals that consider themselves as coaches. And it's really not about certification. Let's just say certification comes secondarily, or it's secondary, tertiary to this. It is more important it is much more important to think of this as an coaching assets and coaching skills and coaching capabilities. And those resources can give you a good list of what those should be. Another genuine tip I would like to give to my current and future colleagues, people that would like to pursue a career of a coach, is not to look at it just from a standpoint of compensation. If you really think that this is the most lucrative, the most highly paid job out there, that you're mistaken. You can easily go into sales and marketing or any other highly paid arena and probably make more money. I would like people that go into a coaching role to do this for reasons other than just high pay. For example, I think if someone is in a Scrum Masters role and they're doing great, they probably want to stay in that role and just mature and expand their horizons, because what they do today is still probably to a large extent coaching teams and coaching organizations. In large-scale Scrum is another example. A Scrum Master is a full-time role, and over time their focus on team and on product ownership diminishes, whereas their focus on engineering practices and organizational design increases. But the role itself does not go away, and it's a pretty seasoned, pretty senior role. And my other invitation would be to organizations themselves. Please do not create those often seen anti-patterns and pitfalls by segregating, delineating so much Scrum Masters from coaches in terms of pay grids and other perks and bonuses. Actually, you shouldn't be having bonuses in the first place. The reason being is because you're introducing that element of dysfunction, and this is just an anti-pattern to have people pursuing an Agile coaching career away from a Scrum Master career just for the sake of high compensation. So it's really down to organizations also understanding the essence of roles and making proper decisions.
Gene, thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview. It was great meeting you here in New York, and I hope to see you again soon.
Heitor, thank you very much for having me here. It's been a pleasure, certainly mutual. Yes, we do have one more day to spend together in class, and I'm sure we're going to have some mutual shared learning. So thank you for the opportunity.